Golden Secrets by Bix Weir, read by Tams Broderick. Fair warning! What follows may scare the dickens out of you gold bugs, but will make silver bugs fall over themselves to swap even more of their gold for silver. The mainstream gold world wants you to believe that in the entire history of gold mining, there has been just over 160,000 tons of gold mined from the ground. On top of that, with all our latest seismic and exploration technology, we have only found about 100,000 tons of underground gold reserves that could be economically mined in the future. That is what they want you to believe. But this is a bold-faced lie. Don't get me wrong. I'm a gigantic gold buff, but we need to understand the truth to ever reach a point where gold can take its rightful place in our corrupt monetary system. For the last 100 years, a global effort has been orchestrated to obfuscate, distort, manipulate, and confuse the majority of the world's population as to the supply, demand, and value proposition presented by gold. The powers that be within the USA and other Western superpowers have been the main deceivers, although they have been directed by the European money changers. It is time to remove the veil behind the golden mysteries of the world so we the people can decide for ourselves how we wish to value gold in the market without veils. What the public knows. There are two widely accepted gold statisticians that are followed religiously by the gold mining companies, central banks, governments, and investment community. Above ground gold. GFMS Ltd. is the above-ground gold market prognosticator and claims that the total amount of gold ever mined in the world is 160,000 tons, or 5.1 billion ounces. Historically, this measure rises only as gold is pulled from the ground, as reported by global gold mining companies around the world. Any mystery gold that suddenly appears on the market in ETFs, on the LBMA, in the COMEX warehouses, or in government coffers, is assumed to come from the unreported gold held by private individuals so that their historical figures never have to change. Adrian Douglas wrote an excellent analysis of what a sham organization GFMS is, which can be found at www.gata.org. Below ground gold. The USGS tallies all the identified and unidentified underground gold reserves reported by governments and mining companies around the world. This figure totals 100,000 tons, or 3.2 billion ounces, and at the current extraction rate, all the remaining gold reserves will be depleted within 40 years. There is very little third-party confirmation and clearly little investigation as to whether or not the historical numbers are correct. These USGS figures measure publicly announced gold deposits and never delve into hidden gold deposits that are scattered throughout the world, especially within the United States. Secret above-ground stashes. There are many secret above-ground hoards of gold that the United States and the banking establishments do not want the world to know about, and for good reason. Nobody should underestimate the importance of gold in the economic, political, and global balance of power. The September 11 Commission Report gives an excellent insider's view of what goes on in the gold conspiracy world. Pay special attention to Chapters 7 and 8 starting on page 151 for the gold transactions related to September 11th. Once you understand the role that gold plays in international espionage, it won't take much of a leap to believe that powerful people around the world want to keep the truth about gold a secret. Here are my favorite gold secrets. Probably the most famous secret gold stash is the Nazi gold that was confiscated from Hitler after World War II. Hitler plundered many European nations of their gold as well as countless individuals. Nobody knows the actual figures, but estimates are in the 2,000 to 50,000 ton range, much of which has been used secretly by the military-industrial complex and banking cabal to fund their dirty operations. Information and theories on what happened to the Nazi gold can be found all over the internet. Some sites present clearly fanciful theories, but others are loaded with facts, figures, and motives that are very believable. Another golden stash of even greater volume is Yamashita's gold that was plundered by the Japanese for decades from conquered Asian countries. In order to hide the gold from the United States, it was hidden in caves in the Philippines. But the United States found the gold, and it has been using it to fund covert operations ever since. This secret gold stash is claimed to be in the 100,000 to 300,000 plus ton range, but again, nobody really knows. The Sterling and Peggy Seagrave book, Gold Warriors, gives a detailed account of this gigantic treasure. They also have mountains of documentation backing up their claims of the existence of this secret gold stash, and the ramifications are stunning. Imagine the implications if this secret gold stash was ever to be made officially public. The price of gold would likely crash, although only briefly, and then, once the world understood the reasoning behind hiding this treasure, every country and investor in the world would try to get their hands on some gold. In the aftermath of the market chaos, the world would want answers as to where the gold was sold. Who got the money? Who covered it up? Who has it now? Who does the gold legally belong to? And why is gold so important? All are very, very good questions, but the answers would implicate some of the most powerful people in the world. The covert use of Yamashita's gold has changed the world in the last 70 years, and when disclosed to the public, it will change it again. A third is the rumored Chinese imperial gold that Benjamin Fulford has claimed to have knowledge of. This treasure is so vast that Fulford's contacts has put the total of above-ground physical gold in the world closer to 1 million tons instead of the official number of 160,000 tons. The basic fact is that Eastern countries have coveted gold for centuries, and it makes sense that most of the gold ever mined in the world is located somewhere in Asia. Even today, India imports around 33% of all the gold mined in the world and have been the largest gold importer for years. Maybe the largest unknown store of physical gold in the world is the Vatican gold. For nearly 2,000 years, the Church has been hoarding gold gained from wars and conquests in the name of God. Throughout the ages, people have been shoveling vast amounts of gold into the collection trays every Sunday. The Vatican gold hoard is a closely guarded secret, but I believe that it may be the largest collection in history if you take into account all the gold used in the artwork, crosses, trinkets, coins, and cups owned by the Church. The Vatican is all about privacy, secrecy, and power, and I guarantee you they know the true value of gold. These are just some of the above-ground secret gold stashes that may be out there. When I add it all up and do some conspiratorial guesswork, I come up with a vast store of gold in the neighborhood of 1.5 million tons of above-ground gold, or 10 times the gold supply accepted in the mainstream gold markets. Of course, this may be very far off, both to the upside or the downside. The point is that the accepted above-ground gold numbers are completely dismissing the vast hoards of secret gold that are both rumored to be circulating and or are very well documented as fact. Dispute it all you want. The truth is that you don't know either. Moving on to what is under our feet. Secret below-ground stashes. Here's where it gets a little tricky. The largest gold mine in the world is reported to be the Grasberg mine in Indonesia, with estimated reserves of 1,250 tons of gold, or 40 million ounces. According to USGS, the total economically mineable gold reserves in the world is only 100,000 tons, and of that the USA only holds about 5,500 tons. Or do we? USA Natural Reserves Policy. Since the early 1900s, the United States of America has had a hidden agenda when it comes to scarce natural resources, and that has been to use the rest of the world's natural resources first. The United States has found vast reserves of almost all highly desirable natural resources, including oil, gold, silver, copper, etc. What the USA doesn't do is exploit their own resources. We cleverly disguise these natural treasures in wildlife preserves, ecologically sensitive areas, national parks, offshore no-drill zones, and military bases. Nowhere is it more obvious than in the U.S. consumption of foreign oil. Our oil policy, divide, conquer, and steal oil, has been the focus of the world's hatred of the United States for decades. We go to war under false pretenses in order to gain access to oil reserves, but the U.S. actually holds some of the largest oil reserves ever found. This is discussed in the article The Oil Con, found at www.roadtoruta.com. Basically, we knew that one day the fiat money system would end in massive fraud and failure, causing the end of all trade with the lying, cheating, deceitful country that debauched the currency. Why not use everybody else's natural reserves first and hide your own for the future when the world no longer accepts paper money for hard commodities? Although it may have seemed like a very ingenious plan, history will likely show that the blowback created from its implementation has caused more harm than good. So, these are my two favorite monster gold deposits hidden by the United States government for the rainy day when the world no longer accepts our paper money. Number 1. Chocolate Mountain Military Base, Desert Wildlife Reserve. Back in 1994, California Senator Dianne Feinstein orchestrated a very controversial takeover of one of the largest gold deposits in the world in the Chocolate Mountains of California. Karen Lee Bixman exposes this takeover in her article, The Great Gold Heist, which can be found in this article at the Road to Ruta website. Donald Fife, spokesman for the National Association of Mining Districts, said of the heist, quote, "The 103rd Congress managed to accommodate more than a gang of train robbers could achieve in a lifetime when they approved the Desert Wilderness Protection Act." End quote. Fife was commenting on recent information that indicates tens of billions of dollars in gold deposits and huge real estate swindles may be the motivating factor behind the act. Quote, "Unbeknownst to the public, inside the range is the world's richest gold rift zone. Geologists estimate that the gold contained in this zone is worth between $40 to $100 billion. These are surface gold deposits, which are more profitable to mine than the 1-mile deep gold deposits in South Africa. The Mesquite Gold Mine is one of the top 10 mines in the United States and has some of the most profitable gold deposits of any mine in the world. To the north is the Chocolate Mountain Gunnery Range. The Mesquite open pit gold mine literally stops at the fence that borders the gunnery range. Engineers allege that in 1981 and 1982, Consolidated Goldfields, which owned the mine at the time, illegally drilled into the gunnery range area to determine the composition of the ore body. The samples proved to be of high quality. According to these same engineers, beginning in the mid-1980s, military helicopters brought high-ranking military officers, congressmen, and senators to the area to examine these large gold deposits. Congressman Bruce Vento, Democrat from Minnesota, was one of several congressmen and senators who participated in these highly secretive trips." End quote. According to Wikipedia, the mountain range is home to the Chocolate Mountain Aerial Gunnery Range, an aerial and gunnery practice area used by the Navy and Marines. A large part of the Chocolate Mountains lie within the gunnery range and are off limits to the public. Indeed, areas near the mountains can be dangerous. In one instance, 2 jet pilots practicing dropping empty bombs overshot the gunnery range and bombed a public campground north of the mountains, injuring 1 man. Clearly, there is something very valuable to protect in those mountains. And this brings me to my last and probably the most amazing story of hidden gold, if true. Number 2, the Grand Canyon National Park, King Solomon's Mines, or El Dorado. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, crazy rumors started floating around the southwest United States about Egyptian cities being found at the northern end of the Grand Canyon. The story went that while traveling down the Colorado River, an explorer discovered a secret cave that was filled with Egyptian artifacts, texts, and ruins. In 1909, an article was written about the find in the Arizona Gazette. Continuing down this path, there is a very interesting book called Lost Cities of North and Central America by David Hatcher Childress that discusses this lost city. There is a link in the article to a YouTube interview with him as he discusses a very interesting theory that the Grand Canyon may be the site of the famed King Solomon mines. Following this train of thought, I found this article in the New York Times, written on June 19, 1912, just a year before the Federal Reserve Act was established, and it's linked in the article as well. Okay, it's a lot of speculation, and sounds unbelievably fanciful, but might it be true? Could the Grand Canyon hold the motherlode of all gold deposits, and the powers that be have been hiding this secret all these years? Is this the missing piece of the gigantic gold manipulation puzzle? Let's dig deeper. In my original Road to Ruta article, there was one part of the story that I was never able to fully decipher. It had to do with Ruta, finding the colored flowers in some mysterious caves. Ruta's grandma, who represents ex-Fed Chairman Arthur Burns, who was Alan Greenspan's mentor, says to Ruta, quote, "Some people say you can get there through the caves near the Cobblestone Canyon." End quote. Could Cobblestone Canyon be referring to this Colorado Canyon, where they supposedly found vast riches of gold the year before the Federal Reserve was established? In the Fed comic, Wishes and Rainbows, Ruta went looking for colored flowers in a place called Cobblestone Canyon, where she found vast riches. So much so that she was able to supply all the people of Pebbleton with many colored flowers each, which are ounces of gold. Originally, there was not enough for one flower each, but over time Ruta found many openings, which supplied many colored flowers to the Pebble people. The population of the United States is around 300 million people, so a find with many colored flowers may well reach the billions of ounces that the 1909 article talks about. Also, could these mines be behind the gold illustrations in the Fed Boston release Banking Basics? It looks like the girl is cashing in about 20 ounces of gold for a small stack of bills. Can you see the gold price chart on the back wall of the bank teller? If my math is correct, 20 ounces times 300 million citizens equals 6 billion ounces. That may be available if my Road to Ruta theories are correct. Still not convinced about the Grand Canyon gold? Many of you who follow the gold conspiracy angle will know that the Bush family is heavily involved in gold manipulation. Bush Sr. was even involved with the largest gold hedging, black gold laundering operation in the world, Barrick Mining. Would it surprise you to find out that Bush Jr. tried to secretly get into the Grand Canyon to mine some of that vast resource that the US of A has hidden away for years? Okay, I can go around and around on this topic, but if you are a major conspiracy bug like myself, there are just too many connections. For those of you who can't make the leap that there are Egyptian treasures and gold hidden in the Grand Canyon, can I ask you to do one more thing for me? Come to the website and sign up to get free weekly updates from the Road to Ruta on the status of our return to the gold-silver standard. May the road you choose be the right road.